Welcome to the Hacking Your Health podcast with Ben Canning and Dave Kennedy. Two guys heading out to hack body, mind, business, and beyond. We are here to provide a single source, bullshit-free guide to understanding your body and how you can live better for longer.
Yo, welcome back to another episode of Hacking Your Health podcast. I'm Ben Canning.
I'm Dave Kennedy.
Is that good? Do we stick with that one?
Yeah, then you're supposed to say, like, this is Hacking Your Health, but you already said Hacking Your Health before, so I guess it works out. Okay. It's fine.
Deal with it next week. Okay,
Yeah.
so good. Welcome back anyway. What's going on?
No, hey, really good week of training.
You always start with training. What else is going on?
Well, that's the best thing ever. I love training. Well, obviously we got the major Log4j vulnerability. That's taking out the entire security industry right now. That's obviously problematic for a lot of folks. And so for those listening that are still dealing with it, appreciate all the defenders out there and the security industry working to fix these issues. It's been taxing on a lot of folks. I know it's been taxing on me. It's been taxing on our team. So that's been kind of an all hands on deck, which when I do my check-in, you're going to see that I missed like 2 days of steps. So I apologize ahead of time for that. Just because of this thing, I've been too busy.
I actually saw somebody tweet yesterday just saying to all the security folk out there, remember to go and actually take some time for yourself, because you could get sucked into, because obviously everybody that I'm talking to, they're just, flat out back-to-back meetings and work and whatever else.
Well, I think that's important to note is that, we get so hyper-focused on whatever tasks at hand. And even, this is probably one of the worst ones we've ever seen, but take that out of the equation. We do the same things when we're coding or if there's an incident or, certain things. So I think, regardless of how critical this thing is, you taking a step away from your desk and taking a 10-minute walk is not going to hurt anything. It's going to, in fact, it's going to clear your mind. You're going to feel better. And I think, it'll definitely help you in the long run as, for mental clarity, health, and everything else. Take some breaks, take some rest, get a quick 20-minute power nap in, do what you can to help alleviate your mind, your body, the stress, whatever you possibly do. I would never said this a year ago, but the breathing exercises can really help out a lot too.
Wim Hof,
breathing
Wim
journeys,
Hof
things like that.
For that, if you're on that, get on the Wim Hof app. It's good for just sort of breaking it down for you, so you actually know what you're doing.
Yeah, and Wim Hof is like the breathing ninja master of all breathing. I
actually think that
like
you and I should go on I guess we could have like a We Hack Health, staff outing, me and you. And I don't know if you've seen any of the stuff he does. He goes and climbs, icebergs in with his shirt off. Everybody's topless to deal with the cold. Imagine you're fully kitted out, coats and stuff on.
That's awesome. Well, I'll tell you, the breathing exercises, you talk to anybody that went through that, talk to Head Nagy or anybody, Nigel, it's crazy the sense of stress relief and everything else that kind of comes along with it and how relaxed you are afterwards. It's an incredible, 30-minute intensity, craziness, of breathing, which you wouldn't think would be something that would have that effect on you, but it's absolutely something that I think can help out too if you incorporate that into your routines as well. I need to do a better job of those, spending time. I've done a couple without, having an instructor there, but at the end of the day, I need to get better at doing that more and more.
Well, actually, I spoke to Sean since the last time that we had a call. And the last time was one of the I want to say better, but more insightful, I guess, ones for me. And I said to him, I was like, if there's some way that I can incorporate videos that he has already pre-made to put that into our onboarding process, that you go through that journey right at the start. Because I think if you went through that at the start, it would sort of put you in the right mind frame as to, what the fuck's actually to come here over the next 6, 12, 18 months.
Yeah, a year ago, I would have thought you're crazy with those. I might be. Well, something's working. But no, other than that, things have been good on my end. I switched over from Whoop. Actually, my Whoop is sitting up here on the shelf. This is the first time in a year and a half that I have not worn it an entire day. It's actually kind of weird. It's I might put it back on just for but I switched over to Aura. So I'm wearing the Aura ring. It does scratch really easy though. That's one thing I don't like about it. But but it's been good so far. I really enjoy it. It's a lot lighter than I thought it was going to be, and a lot less of a bulky profile than I thought it was going to be. It's actually really thin and lightweight.
I think this one I think this one is smaller than the last one. The last one was slightly thicker. I don't know that it was any heavier, but it was definitely slightly thicker. But yeah, I'd much prefer this one.
Yeah, and the data that you get out of it's very similar to Whoop, which are like, you get your heart rate variability, your resting heart rate. It calculates, your readiness and your, basically your strain and recovery. Same thing as Whoop. So far so good. Liking that. I decided to take a little bit of a plunge into this just to take a Whoop. The Whoop 4 has been a bit buggy on my end. It's been like losing track of my sleep. So it'll say like my recovery is at like 10% because it lost like 5 hours of my sleep. It'll register that I'm cycling when I'm driving a bike, which is great when you're trying to cheat to beat Hinegi, but it doesn't feel right. It's like, hey, you just did a 20 strain cycling thing and I was just driving in the car. But hey, I'm beating Chris. That's all that matters, right? So far so good with it though, but really enjoy it. But what's up with you, man? How you been?
Good. Today's actually a big day for me that I haven't really spoken about. So the day of recording, it's Wednesday the 15th, I think, marks my 5th year anniversary as a coach. So this day 5 years ago, I started coaching. So today is a big day for me. I've done a lot of like reflecting just over the past 5 years and what that's actually looked like and where I was then versus where I am now and all that sort of stuff. So it's been an interesting day.
That's awesome.
It's actually kind of, fitting to what we sort of spoke about. We wanted to frame this podcast about.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, congratulations on 5 years of being a trainer, and so glad that I found you and that I've been part of this journey as well. It's been awesome to be part of it and to have you there side by side. I think today's podcast, what we wanted to accomplish is kind of like a year in review, right? Going into 2022, a lot of people have New Year's resolutions, which oftentimes is like, hey, I'm going to eat, some wood bark off of the tree, and that's it.
And learn to speak Chinese.
I'm going to go on a water cleanse where I'm only going to drink water for 6 years, and I'm going to go to the gym 17 times a day in order to lose this weight. Things that aren't accomplishable, especially if you're not changing kind of the core habits of what you do. So this podcast is really diving down into the basics and understanding, hey, let's make some small adjustments to what we're doing, understand how our bodies work, and really start to make those changes that will catapult you into success going into 2022. Because I think it's important to note that, the biggest struggle that you see, and this is our mindset in the US and the UK and the world, is that, hey, if you do this diet, you're going to drop 20 pounds. Well, are you going to be happy at 20 pounds? No. You're not going to have the body shape that you want. You're not going to feel good as like you do. You're probably going to feel like shit because you've been on this horrible diet for a long period of time. And then guess what's going to happen? You're going to go right back into not being in that diet, and then you're going to gain that 20 pounds back, maybe even 30 pounds or 40 pounds. And you're going to feel even more like shit because you spent, 3 months doing a water cleanse, colonoscopy diet. And all of a sudden now, you're getting it all back again. So let's get down to what can we do to be successful long term. And it really comes with, listen, this is a journey. This isn't, you have to look at this as every day I'm better than I was yesterday, right? And eventually that will add up over time. And I think you had posted recently on social media around the atomic habits, around the time frame of progression to have something that changes in your life is a drastic change over time, right? And it's not something that you're going to see immediate results day one or day two, but you will over time, right? And I think that's the big component here is take small steps. Let's talk about calories in versus calories out. Let's talk about how you get your nutrition down. Let's talk about workout routines, and let's get you into a spot to where you're going in 22 to be successful.
Yeah, I actually thought about this earlier on. So obviously you sent me that voice note after coming out of Orion's Theory earlier on, and you're like, oh, I just don't know what's going on. Like, I feel like I've maxed out and I was at this, and then all of a sudden, like, I'm this whole new person in Orion's Theory. And I think it literally comes down to that 1% better thing. It's not something that you're going to see day in, day out, that you're seeing these improvements, but then you come away from a workout like that being like, holy fuck, like, I'm actually able to accomplish that at that level. It's not like I actually think about myself in that situation. I'm like, right, if I was in Orion's Theory, I'd be like, thank fuck I actually made it through the other side of that. Whereas you're doing it at a different level. Do you know what I mean? So that just comes down to everything that we refine as we go through the process. Do you know what I mean? It's not something that has happened overnight, and it's not one big change. It's okay, right? We're looking at maybe 10, 12, 15 different data points. How can we make those 1% better? That's going to ultimately increase your performance in Orange Theory, in the gym, or whatever it is.
It's interesting about the whole Orange Theory aspect, because when I first started Orange Theory, very much out of shape, right? And I gradually started building up over time and got better and better. And I'm by far the most, strongest person there, right? I mean, and I'm not saying that to toot my own horn, but there's no question. Like, it's just, I'm leaps and bounds ahead of, cardio and working out and everything else, weights, everything else that I do.
I don't know. Chris said he was top. I don't know. I'm a different conversation.
Yeah, Chris is lying, whatever that is anyway. But to get from that to here is interesting. But what happened kind of over, I would say, the past like 4 months or so, is I just felt kind of complacent at Orange Theory, is the best way of explaining it. And it wasn't me being complacent and trying to work out. I had felt like I had hit my top. I'd hit as max as I could possibly go. And so, I was busting my ass, and I'd only get what they call splat points. I only get like 18 or 19 splat points. I would only be able to do, an 8 mile an hour base, 10 mile an hour push, 12 mile per hour, small incremental all outs. And, the past week or so, I've catapulted leaps and bounds past that. I mean, to the point to where I'm running, 12 mile per hour, 2 minute all outs. I did a 12 mile per hour, 11% incline. And I was just a madman on the thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I come out of that exhausted and tired and just destroyed. But I feel so different now than I did 4 months ago. And I've gotten kind of past that plateau of, hey, this is as far as I'm going to go. No, actually, I can still continue to go up and progress. So there's a point. And it's those minor increments.
There's a point then, though, again, I can't remember who it was that one of the clients sent me in anyway. Another point from Atomic Habits, it's where he talks about the plateau of latent potential. And that's potentially what you were saying there. Like, you're in this time, the way he describes it in Atomic Habits is the plateau of latent potential is the lag time between doing what we need to do and seeing the results we want to see. So obviously, we can't progress at the same rate forever, or else fuck knows what would happen at the other side of it. But you get to a point, and it's the same sort of conversation that Matt had about business. You get to a certain point, and then you level out, you plateau, and then you go again. So this sort of time period of the past, you said 4 weeks there, that's probably just sort of that leveling out, and then it's the next time to sort of push from there.
Yeah, and it's the same thing on the resistance training too. When I was doing the power building, I saw some just absolute insane increases, right? Just insane strength and power and, things like that. And that also might be, equated to, when we were doing the power building, we were pushing a ton of calories. I was heavier, maybe I even though I was increasing in strength, cardio wise, it might have been more difficult for me to push some of that weight around. And now, we're shrinking down again, becoming leaner. That might be a good reason why, that's happening. I have the strength and, being a little bit lean at the same time. So there's I think reasons for all of it, but at the end of the day, it's the small changes that make a big difference. I'll tell you about my first experience with bulking with Ben. So we did a bulking phase where, we didn't get too out of crazy. I didn't get this big up, but body fat percentage increased where, I started to lose visibility of my abs. Still there, but, kind of brushed over a little bit with
2 out of 6
fat
instead of 6 out of 6.
Yeah, 2 out of 6. Yeah, 2 out of 6. And so, I start to freak out. I'm like, Ben, I'm getting fat again. I'm getting fat again. And then we start doing the cutting phase, and I'm like, day one, why can't I see my abs? We're cutting and I can't see my abs yet, Ben. And you're like, dude, you out of all people know this takes some time, right? And I think it's just that mindset of like, you want it now, but understand that, I always love the saying, I'm stronger than I was yesterday, right? And that's what you have to keep into perspective, is that, even if it's not stronger, but I'm better than I was yesterday, right? If I got my nutrition down, there was just somebody on Twitter recently that read my Medium post on total daily energy expenditure and caloric intake versus outtake. And they said, since I started working on this, a month and a half ago, I've lost 11 pounds. And I get to eat things like this, and they had a picture of them eating this awesome food. For me, I sent a funny picture this weekend. I'm like, man, I'm roughing it with this, with this cutting phase. I don't know if I'm going to make it. And it was this big burger with, brisket and a whole bunch of barbecue sauce on it. And it was just this most amazing, mouth-watering, burger. We don't have to starve ourselves in this case, but We just have to understand what we're putting in our body versus what our expenditure is for all of this, and making that a successful path.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it's about having that understanding, and the internet is the best and the worst place for it. Do you know what I mean? People will, spend hours and hours and hours researching, probably reading back-to-back articles that will literally say the opposite things and whatever else, whenever none of that really matters, because all of them are right and all of them are wrong. They're all right for some people and they're all wrong for other people. And it's just about working out, what you can do for you. And if you are the sort of person that you need to go down that super strict route and that's you, then that's absolutely fine. But, for me, it's about something that's sustainable and about something that's long term. And I've actually mentioned this a couple of times in this week's check-ins. Obviously we all know from everything that we've spoken about, and from first hand, that for me this needs to be something that's sustainable and something that's long term. Okay, so it needs to be something that's manageable, not something that totally turns your life upside down or is super restrictive, or you can't do this, you can't do that. So with that sort of comes riding these really fine margins in terms of like what we're actually doing. So whether that's from your steps or your cardio or your food, your protein, your water intake, your sleep, a lot of different data points running on small margins, so that if one of those is off, then you're going to notice that effect. So it's not extremes in any one thing, it's small margins on either side. And a couple of people were like, even like you were saying there, you were off on your steps. Not that that's going to affect it directly, but if that was, say you were 2,000 steps down on average per day for 2 weeks, you would notice that difference. So things like that, about just bringing them back up to that level. And it's because we ride those small margins. And that's what, for me, allows this to be something that we can do long term.
Well, what I liked about last week's check-in is, you were like, hey, we're going to push this, but I'm going to keep calories same this week, but I'm going to add an additional, X amount of steps, for you to do per day. And that'll equate to this amount of calories, which is similar to me dropping the calories, right? But I want to make sure that you're getting the food that you need for your body to work. And what's interesting is, I didn't drop any pounds. Now I also missed my steps for 2 days too, but I didn't drop any weight. But I will tell you, so I did my measurements right before this, and waist down, hips down, biceps up, quads up, calves up, neck up. Like everything's up, like everything is grown since last week, except for my waist and my quads or my hips, which I lost weight in, right? And chest is up, everything. So, my ears grew. I was kidding. But that's ultimately at the end of the day, if I'm leaner and I have more muscle mass, that's exactly what we're going for, right? And it's those minor increments, and that's just a week, by the way. Like, I am noticeably stronger in a week time period. I look at my total volume for last week for the exact same thing that I did, and my total volume is up by 5,000 pounds more than I did last week, right? And so you look at that and you say, and last week I murdered myself. This week I murdered myself, but I'm still up, over what I did. So you can have some big gains pretty quickly, but you have to recognize that to get the body type that you want, to live this lifestyle, it is a lifestyle. It's not something that's going to be a diet that you do. And I remember I was going through, of course me, looking at scientific research studies and things like that, but I also look at diet studies and things like that have come out. And I saw there was a headline that was like the top 5 things you should eat to burn fat, the top 5 foods you should eat to burn fat. And I'm like, you are literally telling people the wrong thing. They think if they eat this, that they're going to shed fat off. Right. And what they're saying is, hey, these are 5 healthy foods you should probably eat if you have your nutrition down and you have your calories down and you're eating the appropriate amount of portions, right? But they don't tell you that. They're just like, hey, if you eat these 5 foods,
see, I'm the literal.
You're gonna look like this model.
I'm the literal person who would go and get those 5 foods and just eat them and be like, "What the fuck's not working?
It's not working." I'm 3 days in and I still don't notice anything.
I think what you're saying there,
but it's ridiculous.
Yeah. I think it's a total shit show, and all we can do is try and provide the information that actually makes sense to people. But I think it's a good point that you're noting there, that this week and last week were the same in terms of calories, but you've seen an increase, or a total increase in terms of your volume of up to 5,000 pounds. So technically you've done 5,000 pounds more worth of volume in terms of your lifting, and that has created the further output. And that's why I said last week that I wanted to keep the calories high, because yes, could I cut your calories by 500 a day each day? No problem. And yeah, you'd be able to do it, and yeah, you would lose weight, but your sessions would start to suffer, and then you get down that rabbit hole, and then your calories run out very quickly at that point. So is it better doing it the way that we're doing it, that, we can just tweak other things, keep calories high, and just make sure the intensity of your workouts there? To me, that makes more sense.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, old Dave, year ago Dave, would have been freaking the F out, that I didn't drop, 5 pounds or 2 pounds or 1 pound, throughout the week. I got on the scale, I'm like, I'm way stronger than I was yesterday, so I feel good. So I feel big, So, for me, it's less on the scale, more so on how I'm feeling, and how making progress on the weight side of the house. Obviously, growing muscle mass and the measurements growing, all going in the right direction. So I less take care of the scale now. The scale is still good.
Everybody that for 5 years.
I know it's taken so long. It's taken so long. You have to understand, like, breaking that habit's like the hardest thing for us to do, because it's like, that's what we're told is our weight. But here's the thing, like, we got down to like 195, right? And I wasn't happy where I was at. I looked, cut, but I didn't have muscle. So like I wasn't happy where I'm at. I'm much happier now at 228 or 227 than I've ever have been, at 195 or 185. When at 185, Aaron was. So I'll tell you a great story. When I was at 185, Aaron would be like, "Listen, you're so bony. You have no butt. Your ribs are sticking out. Like, you just look so bony." And she's like, she's like, "Can you gain just a little bit of pounds?" And I'm like, And she said to me the other day, I had my shirt off and I just got done with the sauna, and I was going to the shower, and she's like, "Hey, my God," she's like, would you have ever thought that you had like be like this muscle guy, like this much muscle? You look amazing, and like that's awesome, right? Like that's what we're going for. And there's this meme that I saw on the dad bod transformation that I thought was really funny. It was like in our heads what we picture, and it was like this dude with like shredded abs and huge muscles. And in his mind, there's like all of these girls that are fawning over him, saying like, "Oh my God, you look great." And then in the corner, there was like 8 other meatheads that are like, "Dude, you look amazing." And instead of like reality, fantasy versus reality. And it's like, these 10 guys that are like checking you out. They're like, "Dude, those you got some good abs," But at the end of the day, confidence, how you feel about yourself, doing the right things, making progress. That's what we're here for. And this is, again, a journey to be there so that you can get to that point that you want to be at and either maintain or grow. I don't think I'll ever stop trying to grow my muscles. Like, I just want to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That's my goal, right? But that might not be yours. But
I mean, it is
framework that
mine is the same as yours, but you mean everybody else?
Yeah. Yeah. Like you and me, like, we're just going to keep going, just getting jacked AF. But, but no, I think, what people really need to recognize is that, listen, if you're doing a diet, you're going to fail. If you're doing nutrition and you're understanding what you're putting into your body and what that means and having some restrictions for yourself, you're going to be successful. And, my biggest thing when I was overweight was my obsession with food. And I was never, ever, ever, ever a sweets guy. Like, I wasn't a cake and, ice cream type of person. I never drank my calories. Mine was always, I love food. So I would eat a lot of it, right? And I would eat till I was just super full, and I, just kept eating more. And then, 30 minutes later, I'm like, hey, I'm going to go eat some more. And I would just keep eating, right? I would eat all day. I was probably pounding 5,000 calories a day, which seems insane to me because I eat all day now. And I can't figure out how to get 3,200 calories or 3,900 calories when I was doing that. But, at the end of the day, this framework that I have around, hey, you have 3,200 calories, that's it. So if you blow 1,000 calories on a burger, cool. You're going to have to be very protein centric, throughout the rest of the day and eat a little bit less than you normally would because you blew it on this burger. That type of framework is something that if you get that routine in your head, you will be successful for the rest of your life, period.
Right. That's why we're on the topic. We talked about hacks here. So top 3 protein hacks from Dave.
Top 3 protein hacks for me. So if I'm low on if I'm low on protein, I need to get protein in. There's these.
Don't you dare fucking say Anabar.
Well, no, I don't. So I like Anabars, but they're from a calorie perspective and how much protein there is versus carbohydrates and everything else, it doesn't make sense because it's like 280 calories for 21 grams of protein. I don't recommend that.
Okay.
If you're high calories and you need carbohydrates, you need some protein, it's fantastic. So I do like Anabars, but I use them very sparingly. I only eat like 20 a day, so it's not that bad. No, for me, for protein hacks, Greek yogurt is kind of like my staple. I eat a ton of Greek yogurt. There's two new ones that came out recently. There's Okios Pro, which is 20 grams of protein per one instance, and it's only 180 calories, I think. And then there's this other one called Ratio Pro, which is 25 grams at 230 calories. So, those are really great, quick, protein things that you can add. Beef jerky is also my second protein hack. So usually one bag of beef jerky can be anywhere between 25 to 35 grams of protein per bag, and usually really low calories. You're talking like 120, 140 calories. Don't get the ones that are like super caked in barbecue sauce and sugar that are, like 500 calories. But, like the salt and pepper ones, the jalapeno, the habanero ones, they're typically 140, 150 calories per bag for, 35 grams of protein. That's fantastic. And then obviously protein shakes. From a protein shake perspective, I usually do one protein shake a day, unless it's a cardio and workout day. So when I get done with Orange Theory, I come home and I do a protein shake. And then when I'm done doing my weight training, I also do a protein shake. But I'll usually split them up only to 25 grams and 25 grams. If I'm doing just one, big lift for that day, I'll do 2 scoops for 50 grams of protein. And then the rest of it I get through eating. Steaks. If you like steaks, steaks are fantastic for protein. You can get 40 to 60, 80 grams of protein through a steak. Outback Steakhouse has, I think it's like $27 for, a filet that has, I think, 42 grams of protein. And then you can get sweet potatoes with it and broccoli. So it's a fantastic, mixture of carbohydrates, protein and everything else. So that's kind of like my staple, 3 or 4 things that I typically go to from a protein perspective.
Cool.
What about you?
For me, it's not necessarily about the things, but it's how to look at it. And I think once we sort of combat that with people, it makes it much easier. So my first sort of hack in terms of protein would be to break it down throughout the day. So if you're looking at 200 grams, it seems like a lot. You're like, how the fuck am I ever going to hit this? But if you break it down to your meals and know what you need to take per meal, it's much easier. So as you said, have a protein shake. I'm all for them. People are like, oh, it's not proper protein, blah, 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 whatever. If it gets you across the line in terms of hitting your protein goal, then get it in all day long. So say, for example, so if you have a protein shake that's 50 grams of protein and your goal was 200 grams, that's going to take you down to 150 grams straight away. If you then have 4 meals, you just split 150 grams across 4 meals. What's that? 30-ish, 37 something. So you just split that across your 4 meals and make sure that you're ticking that box every single meal. And it makes it, you're not getting to the end of the day and thinking, shit, right, I have to have 95 grams of protein here. What the fuck am I going to eat? So that'd be the first one. The second one would be working out how to, if you're falling short for the day, work out how you can increase it slightly in the meal. So if you're having 150 grams of chicken, have 180. If you're having, a 6-ounce fillet steak, as you said, have an 8-ounce one. So find out ways that you can slightly increase there. Another good tip for that is if you're having like whole eggs, say you have 3 whole eggs in the morning, just add 150, 200 grams of egg whites and that will add it up. And the third one would be, this is the proper hack in terms of low calorie, hit the target, hit your protein, and it's prawns or shrimp. Like if you get that in the day, they're super low calories. They come in infinite amounts of flavors. You can have them with anything, and that you can get you over the line with that, no problem at all.
Dude, I love me some shrimp with some cocktail sauce. That's like my jam. There's this
have shrimp with your steak. Fucking no brainer to me.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, when you come to the States, I got to get you this. There's a special place that makes this. I'm gonna have to start banking my calories now. There's this place that makes this super spicy cocktail sauce. It's like, it just smacks you with horseradish, all over your face. It's like the spiciest cocktail sauce you've ever had in your life. It's amazing.
Okay.
My kids won't even try it. So, but yeah. And then what about trying to understand? If you're just starting off in this, how do you calculate your calories, how much protein you need, how many carbohydrates you need? What do you I know we've covered this in some of the earlier discussions, but how do you even get started with like, hey, if I'm going to go on this journey and I'm going to start counting my calories, and I recommend MyFitnessPal. That's the easiest one to use. You can scan barcodes and things like that. It automatically adds it. Again, I've said this before, but if you want to make a promise to yourself to be successful, then make this your religion of adding, everything that you eat right before you eat it, put it into this as a promise to yourself that I'll never go back to the spot again. And that's, I've logged, I think, 510 days, of my fitness spot. I haven't missed one day. And that's a promise to myself that I will never go back to that sense again and have an understanding. And if I cheat, if I eat more, I add it. Those are things for me to understand. Hey, I had a lapse in judgment, or hey, I'm just going to do it because it's fun, and then I'm going to go back to my stuff the next day. That's a promise to yourself to keep yourself accountable as you go through it. But how do you even get started with calculating your calories, your protein, your carbohydrates, and your fat?
So one thing I would say from the start point, if you don't want to overcomplicate it, just literally do what you're doing right now and track it. So eat as you normally are, like as you would day to day, and track it. Then after a 2-week period, have a look at how many calories that is on an average, and have some way of logging how your body's responded to it. So whether it's weight and metrics and photos or whatever it is that you want to do. If it's moved in the direction that you want it to, if your goal is to lose weight, then perfect, just keep doing what you're doing. If not, then slightly reduce your calories by 100, 200 or whatever it is. You don't need to overcomplicate it. You don't need a meal plan. You don't need fucking your exact macro breakdown. Literally just start with what you're doing right now, track the data, and then have an understanding of how your body responds to what you're doing exactly now.
Yeah, I think that's a big piece there. And I think, starting off with that, of understanding the calories that you're taking in versus the calories that you typically would burn is important. There's some great calculators out there that can at least give you a starting point too. If you're like, hey, what do I need to do to lose? On average, you should expect to lose about 1 to 2 pounds a week. Now, when you first start with a high protein diet, if you start to go more higher on protein, don't expect to lose any weight for the first week or two as your body adjusts to more protein. But you should start to expect to lose about 1 to 2 pounds per week if you put yourself in a good enough caloric deficit. Anything more than that, if you're really overweight, then yes, you can lose more than that. But if you're, mid-range overweight, 1 to 2 pounds is pretty much average for that side of the house. And it's what we call the total daily energy expenditure. So how much energy are you burning a day with the activities you do? If you're doing no activities, okay, that's fine. Let's just say your total daily energy expenditure is 2,000 calories. Okay, so now we have 2,000 calories. How do we break that out? Well, if you're doing resistance training, you definitely want to have more grams of protein than not. Typically, it's 1 gram of protein per pound of weight, subtracting your body fat. Or you can use the general rule of thumb of 1 gram per pound or 1 gram of protein per centimeter of height. We'll also kind of calculate a good average for you to kind of start off with for how many grams of protein you have. So I'm 6'4". The range of that is anywhere between 200 to 230 grams of protein. Based on that, now I'm a little bit different now because of my muscle mass, so I typically go more on the higher levels of protein. But if you're doing resistance training, more protein the better. High protein diets fill you up more, as well as have been clinically or scientifically showed in many studies of having a much more better impact on weight loss. So the more protein you can have, the better. And then carbohydrates, which everybody tells you are bad, are not. That's the energy. Now, don't get me wrong. If you eat, a whole thing of pasta and then you pound some Dairy Queen afterwards, that's going to turn right into fat. But if you understand what you're doing from a calorie perspective, and let's just say, again, you're burning 2,000 calories and you get, 150 grams of protein in, the rest of those should be low fat and the rest of it high carbohydrates to produce the energy that you need to get you through the day at a constant, steady level of energy. So, carbohydrates equals energy. Fat has an unlimited store, so be careful of how much fat you put in. It's still necessary, obviously, for our body. But I usually try to get anywhere between, 60 to 70 grams of fat per day, around 300 grams of carbohydrates, and about 240, 250 grams of protein per day is kind of my breakdown of 3,200 calories. So, again, my calories are much higher, just based on the muscle mass that I've added over the past year and a half. That'll continue to go up as I put more and more muscle on. You need more calories to maintain that muscle. So I will continue to eat more and more and more eventually as time goes on. So that's just kind of how it all works. So the more you do resistance training, the more muscle you build, the more you can eat, which is a benefit to those. And your total daily energy expenditures will continue to increase as your muscle grows. But if you're not doing any resistance training, you're not doing any cardio, you're not doing any steps, grab a total daily energy expenditure calculator. There's one at the dad bod transformation. If you just Google total daily energy expenditure or TDEE calculator, there's plenty of them out there. You enter your weight, gender, level of activity. If you do it once a week or 0 times a week or 5 times a week or 30 times a week, whatever, it'll calculate how many calories that you typically need based on your height and weight, and that'll get you a good starting point. Now, you start to eat those calories, you start to track it, and if you're not losing the desired weight, shave 100 or 200 calories off of that to start to get to the point where you want to. Don't do big increments. Don't do 500 calories. You're just going to piss yourself off and be miserable. Just do like 100 calories a day. See how that works. 100 calories spanned over 7 days is 700 calories, right? That's a big difference on what you're eating throughout the entire week. If you look at this again from a long scale perspective, your body doesn't have, a clock where it says, well, hey, I only got 100 calories here. I only got 100 calories here. It's a total massive sum of calories in versus calories out.
Yeah, I agree. I think the original calculator that we said was calculator.net. It has all of it's just under fitness and health calculators. They 100% are a great place to start. It'll give you accurate numbers. It'll give you a start point at least, but you're still going to have to go through the process of, if it spits out 2,400 calories and 180 grams protein, do that for a 2-week period. See how your body responds, and then refine it. I think probably one of the biggest stumbling blocks for a lot of people is they track their food and then don't do fucking anything with the information. They're like, oh, but I've been tracking my food for 256 years and I'm still the same weight. I'm like, you've been eating the same amount of calories for the past however long it's been. So that's why you're staying the same. So it's about having the data, but actually knowing what to do with it as well. If your goal is to lose weight and you track your food for 2 weeks and you don't lose any weight, as you said, just take it down slightly. In terms of where to go from a deficit perspective, it depends on the sort of person you are. If you're the sort of person that can handle being in a more extreme deficit, then I would definitely do it, because you'll get in and out quicker, if that makes sense. So we've experienced this in a mini cut phase where we went to that slightly higher percentage deficit to allow us to get in and out quicker, because I knew sort of how long it was going to take and what we needed to achieve in that time. If not, then just take it to 10% of whatever it's given you from the TDEE calculator, and go from there and just sort of refine it as we go. There's nothing, like, I'm quite open about this on calls as well. Like, whenever I'm on initial coaching calls with people, I'm like, I don't have the magic secret here. Like, I'm just going to find a baseline and refine it as we go. And I think probably the biggest impact I can have on that person is having the data and knowing what to do with it for them and refining it as we go. Like, I had a call during the week with one of the guys from the Discord channel, and it was actually funny because, obviously we've had conversations and, a lot of people are coming to me for weight loss and whatever else, but he was saying things to me that really resonated with me in terms of, he was skinny and he's spent all this time trying to put on weight and put on muscle and all these other things. And he actually mentioned about the fact of, whenever he goes into that slight surplus, that he starts to put on body fat and he freaks out, comes back down again. And I think we spoke about this last week, where you have that sort of mindset that whenever you're lean, you feel skinny. So you're like, oh, I need to bulk up. And then you bulk up slightly and you're slightly more body fat. And you're like, oh, I'm so fat. You need to come down. And you like ping pong in between the two. And I sort of said, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, I was like, I think that's probably one of the things that you benefited from most, was having me in your corner to say, look, it's going to be all right. Like, we need to do this 100%. For this, because as you sort of said, that sort of initial 2 pounds that you would have put on, you'd be like, oh, fuck this. Nope, not doing it.
Yep, we're done. I'm cutting my calories by 1,000. And I'm gonna work out 7 times. Yeah. No, it's amazing that you mentioned that, because one of the largest benefits that I've had is having you there to say, like, listen, this is where we're going with it. Don't freak out. And you explaining it to me, really helps me out with that, because when I started gaining weight, I'm like, oh shit, and then you're like, then I look at myself now, I'm like, oh shit, that's awesome, but it's like, hey, it's good shit, but I think the knee-jerk reaction to that is, you have to stay the same weight or lose weight in order to get the desired effect that you want to. And I always use the term skinny fat, because it's a good analogy, where you may be lean, but with your shirt off, you still got that belly. You don't have any muscular definition. You're skinny fat. So are you happy with that? And the answer might be, yeah. I came from 300 pounds and I want to be skinny fat. Great. That's an awesome thing. And believe me, if I saw somebody that was skinny fat, I'm like, dude, all power to you, because you're obviously got your food under control and you're able to do that, right? Or you see, people that are that run all the time and they're just super lean. Again, no muscle mass, right? Again, if that's what your desire is, that's freaking awesome. And the dedication to running and putting out there is freaking amazing. For me, I like having big muscles. Like I like, having big muscles and getting bigger all the time and throwing weights around and being a dumbass in the gym and, everything else that comes along with it, because at the end of the day, that's, I never would have realized how much time and dedication something like this takes. It's not, hey, I do this for 3 weeks and I'm getting jacked. It's, hey, this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life, as long as I can, obviously, because I'm getting older. And we can modify, obviously, and go lighter weights and more reps, as I get to be like 70, but I still got a long ways to go before then. So, again, how do we maximize this journey to have the desired goals that you want to? And, I'll tell you, this summer was the first time in my life, other than probably when I was like 3 or 4, that I can remember where I took my shirt off and I felt good taking my shirt off. Walking on the beach, walking outside. I don't care. Like I just take my shirt off all the time now. Like it's just
like Dave, put your shirt back on. We're in a meeting.
My kids are like, seriously, Dad, are you walking your shirt off again? Like, hey, and Mason, my youngest son, he's like, Dad, I can tell you're in your cutting phase. I can see the abs again. I'm like, yeah, thanks, buddy, appreciate it. It's like, yeah, fist bump. So that's the cool stuff, and I think, when you get a handle over your nutrition, you get a handle over your workout routines, it's, and having somebody obviously like yourself to be there to guide you along those ebbs and flows of things, is really important, because I would not have ever in my life bulked. I would have always stayed lean and skinny. And, could I have gained muscle mass, especially being on TRT and things like that? Yeah, absolutely. Would have been much slower? Yeah. Substantially slower. Would I've gotten stronger faster? No. And I think, when we look at this and how we look at this from a longevity perspective, everything that we've done makes perfect sense of how our bodies work. It's just getting over the scale, getting over, it's funny because, when you say you're going to go through this bulking phase, you're like, hey, you're going to gain some body fat, but we won't let it get out of control. And I think the last week is when I started freaking out, right? I'm like, dude, like I only got 2 abs. Like, what is going on? I'm fat, like all this other stuff. And, and then like a week later, I'm like taking selfies of myself in the mirror, going like, look at those abs, they're back again. It's like, it's not that hard, but we get in our heads about this, and I think that's, and again, I'm in a different spot than I think a lot of folks are, but we have to recognize that, again, this is, a journey that we're coming through to figure out what works best for us and where we want to go for our desired results.
Yeah, I think, obviously we spoke that we want to sort of give tips on setting yourself up for success next year, and I think I tweeted the other day about environment dictates performance, and I think, I can't emphasize enough how much you guys and me benefit from the other guys in the client group. Like I can't emphasize, and I every time I'm on a client call or a coaching call, I'm like, I try and explain to someone who's not in the environment, I'm like, it's not just me, it's everybody else, but it's hard to explain. You'll know whenever you're in it, that kind of thing. But finding that support network and finding that, somebody else, whether it's accountability or whether it's somebody else just to say, look, it's going to be okay, or you're doing the right thing, or reassurance, or whatever it is. I'm not saying that you necessarily need a coach. If you do need one, like I am here, but I'm just saying if you have that sort of support network, or whether it's the Discord server, or whether it's a group of people at work, or whether it's your family, or whether it's a friend or gym partner or your brother or whoever the fuck it is, just somebody to keep you accountable, to hold you to a higher standard than you hold yourself, and to say, look, you're on the right path, you're doing the right thing. It's not going to be easy. We know what we're going to have to go through here. It's just a case of going through it. So I think that would be my number one sort of tip in terms of setting yourself up for success next year. Find an environment. Discord channel is great. I mean, come and join the Discord.
Yeah, Discord channel. So discord.gg/hacking your health. Really great community. We boot anybody that's assholes. But we really haven't had many. I think we had one. We had an ad ban recently, but I think you bring up an important topic of, surrounding yourself. Now, for folks that are obviously married or have a significant other, something to that effect, bestie, whatever. Healthy lifestyles are important, and it may be very difficult to change your local environment right away. I'll give you a prime example of that. When I was overweight, our kids, my kids luckily got the wife's genes on calorie burning and things like that. So they've all relatively remained, very, very lean. I mean, Gavin's like a friggin' rail. That guy doesn't have a pound of muscle on his entire body. He's stick boy. It's like, hey, he needs some TRT. Just kidding, obviously. But, he hasn't had puberty yet. He's still waiting. He's like 14. And he's like still like this tall, but he'll get there. But I'm 6'4" and Aaron's 6 foot. So like he's got to sprout up or I'm going to start questioning that he's my kid. One of these things with the healthy lifestyles is that Aaron, very different upbringing, always super skinny, always rail, could eat whatever she wanted to, never had any issues. Same thing for my kids. And me, I stare at a burger and I'd gain 50 pounds. Now that's not true. I would eat way more than I should, obviously increasing my caloric intake, and then I would grow, right? And I was always told, hey, I'm big boned, hey, it's my, slow metabolism, all this other stuff. Now it's really how I fucking ate.
It was just overconsumption of calories, actually.
Yeah, literally it. Like literally, that's it. Now, don't get me wrong. There are people that, can have, maintain the skinny form factor and eat whatever they want to, but they're probably not eating 5,000 calories a day too. So, when I started on this journey, it's funny because I have tendencies of going all in. I know it's a surprise to everybody, but when I go in on something, it's like it's all in on something. Like whether it's bourbon. Luckily, I didn't become an alcoholic. I just like collecting it. Whatever it is, I just go all in on something. And Erin, I remember when I was first getting into this, she's like, "Man, I hope this isn't one of those all in things." And lo and behold, definitely an all in thing. But what that started to do was change my family too. My family talks about nutrition and what they should be eating, and they're always asking me questions. And I want to be very clear, I'm not teaching them to diet, right? I'm not teaching them about body image. I'm not teaching them about, hey, you need to lose weight, those types of things. At a young age, I think that can be very detrimental to somebody, especially eating disorders and things like that. So, what we really focus on is like, hey, like Mason, for example, he wants to get in better shape, and he's like, Dad, hey, what should I eat before I go to bed? I'm like, don't eat a bowl of cereal, dude. Why don't you eat, this beef jerky, or, have a protein shake, or, hey, even that Jimmy Dean's thing that has, 35 grams of protein and 10 grams of carbs. Hey, that's better than eating a bowl of cereal. That's going to be all sugar. So, we are having discussions around nutrition, and our Aaron does Tavala like I do, pre-made meals. We're all eating more on a much healthier basis, which has really helped me out. Cooking foods and things like that. We tend to go more on the healthy side now than we do not, which is really awesome. Cut down on, I think we used to go to Dairy Queen like 2 or 3 times a week. We don't do that anymore, and it's not like we don't enjoy, summer Dairy Queen or something like that after a sporting event or something like that, but it's just not a habit that we do, 2 or 3 times a week. So it's really, rubbed off on the family side of the house, which has thus made it a lot easier for me, I think, to maintain this.
Yeah, I think, again, another point to note in there as well is that from people that I speak to who find themselves in situations where they're massively overweight, 99% of the time, somewhere it's come from their upbringing, and 99% of that time as well is it's lack of knowledge or lack of education from their parents, and it's not their fault.
100%.
30 years ago or whatever it was, we didn't have the same data information that we have now, so it's not necessarily their fault. I always say it's not your fault, but it's definitely your responsibility to take control of it now. But exactly like you're saying, luckily now that we do have the education, that we can set a better example. So hopefully, the next generation and the generation beyond that won't suffer from the same issues, because we can, if each of us does our bit, we can give them the education they need around nutrition. And it's not just a case of like, I don't know what over there, but over here it's like, big meals and you just have to eat until your plate's finished and that's fucking it. Whereas, it's not really like that anymore. It's entirely different.
Well, I mean, and I'll just state for the fact that I had phenomenal parents. Like I had the best parents you could possibly have from an upbringing perspective. Love them to death. Always there for me. They got divorced at a very young age, and or at my very young age for me. I think I was like 5 years old. And, we came from a lower income type of class where, my mom would hop from job to job to job to job. Same thing for my dad. And, we were always moving around. I think I moved to 6 different places, in a span of like 5 years between my middle school and high school years, which was really tough. But my mom, which was my primary where I'd live, and I'd go see my dad on the weekends. She'd work until, she'd basically work until 7, and then she'd come home and she'd do like dictation and stuff like that for doctors and stuff like that to make money on the side so that she could pay rent and things like that, for the house, and obviously support me and everything else that was going on there. So she wasn't around a lot, right? And so meals were left to me. Like there would be a frozen, I'd have frozen meals basically, or bagels or, whatever. And I would just make myself, a frozen meal for dinner. And that was normal in my household, right? And there was no nutrition aspects of things, and nor was, anything ever, brought up to me of like, hey, this is how you should be eating, or, hey, here's some healthy choices. It was fast food. We'd go to McDonald's in the morning for breakfast before school. We'd go and eat, things, the pizza at school, and I'd come home and I would eat, frozen box of meals. And so that was kind of my upbringing, right? And I think we have a lot more options now available to teach our kids, like, hey, you can have a bowl of cereal, probably best in the morning, so you get that energy kick in, going through, and have fun at the rest of the day. And then at night, focus more on other things that aren't going to necessarily sit in your stomach and grow to something different. So the healthy lifestyle, I think, it's really attainable with what we have available today. And I think it's important to teach our kids, teach our family, everything else about those.
Absolutely agree. Right, so we want to talk about goals for next year. Whenever you said this, we want to talk about what your goals are and what my goals are. It's like personal goals or business goals, or like what we're talking about.
I think a combination of both. When we look at what our goals are in life, they're all intertwined like this, right? Whether that's our fitness goals, which directly equate to how we feel and how we operate. I've said this before on the podcast, but I've never felt better in my entire life, both from a mental clarity perspective, as well as how I handle business or how I handle, day to day. I prioritize things very, very much differently than I used to. I turn down things that I normally would just accept, and that aren't necessary for me to go and do. And maybe it's from a position perspective, I have the ability to do that, but you also have those luxuries in your own life too. Things that consume your day to day. Are those things that you really need to consume your day to day, or can you make availability for doing resistance training or getting on and walking and things like that? I always bring back to Chris, hey, I can only give you twice, a week, 30 minutes a day. Now he's working out literally every day too. So, I think for me, when I look at personal goals, it's what do I want to accomplish in life in 2022, right? So I think that's the question is, so I'll let you go first, or you want me to go first, it's fine. But what are the top 3 goals that you want to do in 2022 for yourself? And it doesn't have to be fitness related. It could be, they're all intertwined together. So number
1 will be beating you at a grocery carrying competition.
I knew that was coming. It's not going to happen, but I'm really impressed at groceries. I'm just throwing it out.
Right. No, genuinely. For me, truth be told, like full disclosure, the past, I'm going to say a month or so, I found myself in quite a negative rabbit hole, and I was doing the things that I was telling all you guys not to do. So obviously, being busy with work, I put myself to the back, and it started to show with everything that I was doing. So my goal in that perspective, it's not necessarily, I want to achieve this with my body, X, Y, and Z, is I need to be more consistent with all the shit that I'm telling you guys to do, because I can't sit here and go, no, do this, this, and this. And I hold my hands up and say that, okay, it did get out of hand. And, I think that whenever I'm like, I'll miss this day, then it just gets out of like, I'll miss the next day, and then that's it, it's a shit show. And so for me, I actually need to get back to the place where I'm prioritizing my training. Nutrition's been okay, that's absolutely fine. But in terms of going and training, I need to prioritize that, and have a better relationship with training, and actually, some sort of like set structure of actually going and doing it. So that'll be the first one.
Yeah, I think it's important to note, though, that you recognize that, right? And that's something that you're addressing. Now, for you, you're obviously getting much busier on the amount of customers or clients that you have, and that obviously affords a lot more time. But you're also focusing on how do I automate some of this, the day-to-day manual tasks that can be automated while ensuring that I can do the quality and focus of people as well, right? And, I think there's some ebbs and flows in business with that too. So, when you look at that and you say, okay, well, I recognize that I'm slacking in this area, but it's for a short term in order for me to get out of this type of hole. I think that's important to recognize, right? It's not going to be a habit that you get into where you let yourself get out of shape. It's more so, hey, this is a short-term thing for me, and I need to address it. And it's getting to the point now where I need to actually go through and do it, right?
You know, for me, it's actually funny because I would say probably for a couple of months, maybe at the start of the summer, I spent this same sort of period like refining things and automating things and making the sort of day-to-day stuff more manageable. And then, you know, it has a ceiling too, and I've obviously reached the ceiling. I'm like, oh fuck, right, I need to do this again to make it more automated or easy for you guys or whatever it is. That's what I'm doing at the minute, because it's okay, while I've got busier in terms of the amount of clients that have joined the team, you know, I'm very conscious that of the time of year that we're coming up to, and you know, that if I continue to grow the way that we do, then I'm going to need to be able to handle more clients. So I've been managing more people, but also trying to build systems and onboarding processes that will allow me to then handle more people at the other side of it. So yeah, that's what I've been up to on that front, which I'm actually excited for, because it's I mean, you're going to understand this. It's fucking cool building stuff that people are going to use. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm building out systems that people are going to use and like testing it out. And my friend Ali, God love him, like I'm sending emails being like, is this working? Can you send me that? And he's like, no, that one's not working. Like, fuck, right. And as I said to you earlier on, like I'm learning new things every day, like stuff that is way out of my comfort zone. Like I'm not just coaching now, I'm building out things. And Jake was funny in the chat earlier on. He was like, when do you become a graphic designer? And I was like, I mean, that is basics for me. Like that is, I'm just putting things together. But yes, and
that's one thing I'll give you credit for. Everything you do like looks beautiful,
yeah.
You know, like it always does. Like not for me. Like I'm like, hey, does it work? Good. You know?
But it's how you do one thing, it's how you do everything on that front. You know, it's about the details and it's about the way things look, like the aesthetics of things. Like that probably what takes me the longest amount of time is making it look a certain way. So if you can make it work and I can make it look a certain way, I think we're a fucking perfect team.
Dude, that's right. That's the best part about it, right? I can get it to work, no problem. It's not going to look pretty though. So,
in terms of other goals, I'll do all mine first, and then you can go yours. My second one's obviously going to be spend more time out there. You know, obviously we've had talks about this before, but I generally would spend a couple of, you know, go out to America a couple of times a year before Global Shit Show. So obviously my dad's out there and whatever else, but I obviously haven't. So spend more time out there and actually do more in-person stuff, because while it's cool being able to do this and talk to people online and do whatever the fuck else we're doing, like I actually want to be in real life. And as I said to you, I haven't coached face to face in almost 2 years. And while it's great being able to do the videos and the form check videos and everything else, like whenever I'm standing there beside you and actually changing it, it will make a lot more sense. And I think that it will definitely change your training a lot. So second goal is going to be spend a lot more time in America in general.
Well, I mean, just when I send, you videos and you're like, hey, tweak this or tweak that, I'm like, damn it, why didn't I think of that? Like the other day you had me change the portion of the bench so it was up, and it like completely changed my stabilization as I was doing my bench press. I'm like, why the fuck didn't I think of that? So getting those tips and tempo and understanding, hey, more time under tension, or if I'm rushing something, I think that's all really important. I can't wait for you. First of all, I can't wait to meet you. But second, I can't wait to show you around Cleveland and, definitely go above and beyond our calorie intake for that week.
I actually full disclosure in terms of your videos, your videos are easy because you move the same way that I move, because we're similar sort of lever lengths and heights. So it's easy because things that I see you do, I've done, and I'm like, okay, well, this is how I resolve that. So it's easy enough. Third goal is going to be doing more in-person, I don't want to say seminars, talks, like speaking, whatever, because that scares the shit out of me. Like, I'm okay on a video because I'm stood in the house here, that's absolutely fine, but being with like actual people in real life in front of me, so that's something I want to do, whether it's here, whether it's there, or wherever the fuck it is. That's something that I want to do, because that is like, couldn't be so further out of my comfort zone, I can't even explain.
That's awesome. Those are good goals, man. Those are
you're
awesome.
Right, they are. Sorry to interrupt you, but if I have that in terms of like my training's down, then I have the confidence to do all those other things. So it's combined. Like,
they're all intertwined to everything that you're doing as far as your business, your health, everything else is all completely linked directly to that, right?
What about you?
And I'll tell you, I'm very fortunate in the sense that I don't really get nervous speaking. I mean, I do to some extent, especially if it's like a large audience, but like I'm more of like I'll go out there and figure it out when I get there type of person. So, I'm not a big, I prepare for a big talk or things like that. I'm like, hey, I know what my message is or what I want to get, and I go out there and I just communicate it, right? And, it's actually an interesting story about that. I maybe mentioned this in one of the podcasts, but I did one of my first large speaking engagements since the whole COVID thing broke out. and I was in Michigan for a conference called GERCON, and I'll tell you, having control of your food and your body, and how big you feel, it's a really interesting feeling when you're up on stage. You feel more confident, and it's going to sound weird, but when I was on stage, like, I felt great. Like, I felt like first of all, I felt like I'd never stopped speaking for a year and a half. But second, I felt so much more confident while I was up on stage. I felt great about myself, which thus I think turned into confidence around my subject that I was talking about. And that's kind of a weird thing, but it's just how they're all intertwined.
But then
right?
that even, if you're feeling good and you're more confident in your message, the person that's sat there receiving it is going to be more, on board with it, because they're like, well, he fucking definitely sounds like he knows, he looks great. He sounds like he knows what he's talking about. Like it's definitely going to be better from both sides.
Well, it's, I always look at, and this is obviously a different subject because, InfoSec, you typically relate to more overweight, heavyset folks that don't take care of themselves, which was me. But it's like when you go to a doctor, the doctor's like, hey, you need to cut back on your food and you're getting overweight, and the doctor's, morbidly obese. You're like, well, why the fuck am I going to listen to you, man?
Yeah.
You're supposed to be the expert here. You need to get your shit under control.
Like, no, you sit down. I'm going to tell you, you have to do.
Yeah. I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that more so in the sense of, like, how do you take advice from somebody that you actually had broached this subject on Twitter recently about, should your personal trainer be fit? And the answer to that is hell yeah, in my opinion, because if a trainer's not in shape, how the hell are you going to take advice from him and know that it's going to be successful? Like, if I see an overweight trainer, I'm going to be like, dude, I don't care how many testimonials you have. Like, if you can't do it yourself, like, how are you going to be successful with me, right? You're not going to motivate me to go.
I'm going to play devil's advocate with this because, yes, 100%. I think that, a trainer or a coach or a fitness instructor or whatever else should definitely be able to display some time period or some experience of getting into shape, whatever that looks like, whether it's massive weight loss, whether it's prep, photo shoot, fitness, whatever it is. I don't think that they necessarily always need to be walking about like shredded all the time, but they definitely need to have
I agree.
some experience, because they won't be able to relate, or they won't have an understanding. Do you know what I mean? If it's somebody who's overweight and has always been overweight and is trying to get people to lose weight, it doesn't fucking make any sense. So yes, they definitely should at some point have displayed some sort of journey or change or whatever it is.
Yeah, no, and I'll be perfectly clear too. Like, to get to like your photo shoot stuff was pain and misery, right?
It was the first time, but not the second time. The first time it was because I didn't give myself enough time. I didn't have enough knowledge. The second time was because I fucking lived and breathed it, and it was literally just a few changes. And the second time I actually prepped in 3 weeks. So I only did 3 weeks because I was so on the ball with everything else all the time. And that's the key thing about it.
That's awesome.
As I said to you last week, it's about being that short period of out that if you need to make a change, you can do it.
Well, but you can't be like that all the time. It's not possible.
You could, but you'd be absolutely no fun to anybody ever.
Right. Like, I would like to have this, Mai Tai, but nope, not going to do it. No. You can't do it. Sorry. Yeah. But I do think that. So goals for me, for next year, I think, I want to definitely continue my fitness journey. Obviously, I think is number one for me. Because I see my fitness journey being a staple for everything else that kind of falls in line. Again, I look at this as, I'm staying fit. I'm able to coach my kids' basketball teams. I'm out there energetically. I'm playing with them. I'm there for my kids in their life. I'm, roughhousing with them at night. And we're, like yesterday we had, we played this game where, like, basically it's the switch between the couch and this, like, comforter or this, sofa thing. And if I get them, I could tickle them or whatever. So it's like, the stupid game that we play. And then Kona, my dog, gets all crazy and starts trying to, also go after them too. So it's all fun. But, like, to do those types of things, as well as, continue my journey of growing larger, bigger, stronger, is I think foundational for me for number one. And that equates to everything else. So second is continuing to expand my businesses. A lot of people don't know, but I don't just do cybersecurity. I've invested in other types of businesses throughout my life. So obviously things like stock market, for example. I'm a big investor in Tesla. I got in early in those stages. I also am partners in some startup companies on the technology front, as well as basketball training facilities that has nothing to do with cybersecurity in any way, shape, or form, where we basically train kids to get better at basketball and get back to communities and things like that. So I think it's to continue to grow our businesses and have fun with it and keep culture and everything else. And, I think for us, I'll just give you an example. We have, Trusted Tech has grown, I think like 50% since last year. We still have an incredible and amazing culture of all of our people. So I think, for me, it's finding time to do all the things that I want to do, but also making sure I focus in on people in all my companies to ensure that I'm still engaged with them. I'm still part of that company. I'm still, working with them day in and day out, I think is really important for me. So I think that's number 2 is just people, keeping in contact with people and growing our businesses, but also maintaining the culture. And I think third one is really going to be refining my habits, whether that's sleep, whether that's, nutrition, whether that's business or work. It's going to be refining my habits for the better, improving myself next year, I think is going to be really important.
Cool, solid. Yeah. And they definitely are all interlinked. And I think, probably one of the biggest things to note is, when you're mentally strong, you're physically strong, and when you're physically strong, you're mentally strong. So all these things that you're able to achieve in the gym translate to all the other things you're able to achieve in business and in life.
Yeah, and I can't emphasize enough. We talked about this in other podcasts, but your physical health is directly related to your mental health and your mental capacity. So, if you are a rock star in the security industry and you're not taking care of your body, think how much more of a rock star you can be in the security industry if you actually took care of your body. Your brain is going to work much more effectively. You're going to feel better about what you do. Again, I can't emphasize enough. Take care of yourself. Take care of your body. Again, start small. Going into 2022, make some nutritional changes. Listen to our previous podcasts of how do you do this, and start to make those changes for success, because I think that ultimately is going to have the biggest impact on you and your life, longevity of life, there for your family, your friends, successful in your career and your businesses. All of those are key things.
Yeah. Hang on as well. I will say I sent you across the link to sort of plan out your 2022. So I'll put the link in the show notes of that, and spending time actually reflecting obviously on last year and the good things that happened from that and the things that you want to carry over in the next year, but also the things that you want to leave in this year so you're not carrying it over, but actually spend time so you have clarity on what it is that you want to achieve and what that actually looks like and how you're going to do it. I think that's quite a good one. And maybe next week we can talk about goal setting, because that's going to fall in that weird week in between Christmas and New Year where everybody's freaking out. So we'll do that.
Sounds good. Well, hey, that's a wrap.
That's it. We need a new intro and a new outro.
Well, hey, check us out on Discord, discord.gg/hackingyourhealth. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter. Twitter predominantly We Hack Health. Check the We Hack Health podcast or hashtag. Hashtag is just a way to share your experiences. People monitor it and like it and comment on it and all that good stuff. So share your successes, your struggles, those types of things. The Discord channels are fantastic for that. If you're curious on just form or supplements or whatever, again, supplements, I recommend stay away from those until you get everything else locked in. Those are all going to be key things, I think, for you to be successful. Surround yourself with positivity and people, and you will ultimately be successful at whatever you do.
Mic drop. See you next week.
Mic drop.
Right, catch you later. Have a good Christmas, everybody, because this is going to be the one before Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, happy Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Next week, we have to have Santa hats on and a beer.
I have a Santa hat somewhere.
Okay, we don't need it today.
But I definitely will have a Santa hat and a beer.
Right, catch you later.
Yeah, next week.